Discover 9 sinister encounters with terrifying feral people in Appalachia's haunted shadows. Jess could feel the weight of something terrible as she drove through the twisted, misty roads of Appalachia. The air hung heavy, stained with decay, as if the land itself mourned lost lives. Sam and Lily sat in silence, eyes glued to their devices, unaware of the darkness creeping ever closer. The old church, once a place of laughter and community, stood crumbling, a skeleton of its former glory. The general store, once vibrant, was now a tomb of rotting wood and broken dreams. And the schoolhouse, her beloved old schoolhouse, loomed ahead, its windows shattered, staring down at them like a warning. A chill gripped Jess when she spotted the flyers plastered on the poles, yellowed and tatty, advertising the lost people vanishing without a trace. A new pang of fear knotted in her stomach. Could this place truly be home? But she shrugged the thought aside, clinging to the hope that this return would be a fresh start. As dusk settled and shadows stretched, she unpacked boxes filled with their old life. It was when the first howls pierced the night air that the fear seeped in, chilling her to the bone. They sounded human, mixed with a primal hunger. Jess remembered the old wives' tales of feral people roaming these woods, discarded tales told in hushed tones. The noise made her pulse race as a breeze swept through, stirring the leaves and whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Determined not to let primal fear overtake her, Jess headed outside to catch her breath. The porch creaked under her weight as she scanned the moonlit woods, heart pounding in her chest. Were their eyes watching her? A shape darted beyond the trees, a flicker of movement that made her stomach twist. How many others lived here, and why did it feel like they knew something she didn't? The next day, at a community meeting, she faced the locals' hollow, unwelcoming gazes. When the topic turned to missing people, voices dropped to whispers. "Don't go into the woods after dark," someone murmured, eyes darting away. Feelings of dread bloomed like dark flowers in her mind. They were scared more than they let on. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, the wind howled and the trees screamed, a cacophony of rustling, snapping branches, and faint laughter mixed with sobs. Jess brushed off the chill creeping along her spine and tucked Sam and Lily under their blankets. But sleep evaded her, visions of feral figures clawing at her resolve. She ventured back onto the porch, breath hitching. As her eyes adjusted, she spotted faint figures moving among the trees, their shapes twisting and turning in the shadows. The laughter grew louder, bizarre and haunting, like echoes of children playing. But Jess knew this laughter meant danger. Her heart raced as a sharp fear tightened around her throat. Who were they? Were they truly human? And in that dark moment, as she stood paralyzed, a new realization slithered down her spine. Maybe, here, in this haunting place, she wasn't the one looking for a fresh start. The real terror was that these woods held past secrets, a community hidden from her, and perhaps, they were watching her too. Jess stood frozen, every instinct screaming for her to run. Yet, the forest held her captive, a web woven with unseen danger. The laughter echoed again, chilling her to the core. The figures disappeared into the blackness, leaving only ripples of sound. She knew she should wake Sam and Lily, but fear rooted her feet. Suddenly, a branch snapped nearby, jolting her from her trance. Heart pounding, she fumbled back, retreating into the safety of the house, slamming the door shut as if to block out the dreadful noises. The worn wood felt flimsy, like it could crack at any moment. Jess took a deep breath, shaking off the feeling of being watched. But her mind raced. Those figures, were they the lost? Lying back down, she forced her eyes shut, praying for sleep. But the laughter transformed into something darker in her mind, a haunting lullaby that teased the edges of her sanity. Were they children? Adults? They felt wrong, like life twisted into something grotesque and primal, a horror story come to life. Morning arrived, but it brought no peace. The sun filtered lazily through the trees, yet the woods felt oppressive, as if the shadows had thickened overnight. Jess was restless, moving through the house as if searching for answers that eluded her. Sam and Lily were still lost in sleep, their childhood innocence untouched by the realities lurking outside. She stepped out onto the porch once more, the air thick and heavy. This time, she felt determined to explore. Maybe the answers lay in the woods. Grabbing her phone, she tapped on the flashlight. "Mom?" Sam's sleepy voice came from behind her. "Where are you going?" "Just to look around," she replied, trying to suppress her nerves. "We're just going for a walk. Can we come?" Lily's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Jess hesitated. She couldn't explain her fear. "Maybe later, okay? Just stay close." She forced a smile, but her stomach churned with dread. As she walked along the path, the shadows shifted, whispering secrets she yearned to understand. The trail wound deeper into the heart of the forest, each step stirring a mix of apprehension and intrigue. Trees towered over her, their gnarled branches like arms reaching out, ready to snatch her away. "Mom!" Sam's voice behind her pulled her back from the edge of panic. "This is creepy." "Just a little further," she encouraged, but her voice faltered. The howls from the previous night echoed again, a chorus that knotted her stomach and made her breath hitch. They felt closer now, curling around her like a menacing fog. She rounded a bend, and then stopped. There, beneath a massive oak tree, something caught her eye. An old, tattered blanket lay on the ground, its colors long faded. Something glimmered among the leaves. Hesitantly, she approached, heart racing. As she knelt, she realized what it was: small, rusted pieces of metal, old toys, remnants of a child's life. Panic surged through her veins as the laughter returned, curling like smoke through the trees. She raced back down the path, fear transforming her blood to ice. "Mom?" Sam's voice trembled as she reached the clearing. "What's wrong?" "They're here, they're watching us," she gasped, a paralyzing dread clawing at her throat. Her mind spun with the realization, they weren't gone. They were close, too close, and the worst part. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were more than just shadows, they were memories. As she ushered Sam and Lily back inside, the door felt like a flimsy barricade against the horrors lurking outside. What had she unwittingly invited them into? The sun dipped low, and as she glanced back at the woods, she saw them. Just for a flicker, figures emerging, cloaked in the twilight. They were waiting. What did they want? Tomorrow would hold the answer, and Jess knew she would have to confront whatever lay beyond the door or risk losing her children to the very shadows that haunted her. The shadows deepened as night fell, heavier than before. Jess sat on the couch, her mind racing, every creak of the house amplifying her unease. Sam and Lily were nestled on either end, blissfully unaware of the chaos brewing just beyond their fragile sanctuary. The quiet night was punctuated only by the occasional rustle of leaves outside, each sound a jagged arrow piercing the silence. "Mom?" Sam's voice broke through her thoughts, tired but shaky. "Can we turn on a movie? It's super dark out." "Yeah, sure," Jess replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She grabbed the remote but found it hard to concentrate. Each flicker of the television cast shadows across the walls, making the familiar space feel foreign, suffocating. As they watched, unease snaked its way into her mind. The cute cartoon characters danced across the screen, but their laughter twisted into the haunting echoes from earlier. Jess stole glances at the windows, half expecting to see time-worn faces pressed against the glass. "Mom, I don't like it here," Lily finally said, her voice small. "Can we go home?" Jess winced, her heart pinching. "This is home, sweetheart. We just need to stay inside." But all at once, the lights flickered, then dimmed, plunging them into darkness. Panic surged through her, and she reached for the flashlight she had hastily set down just moments before. As she flicked it on, a beam cut through the gloom, illuminating the living room, but it did little to dispel the foreboding that loomed. "Stay close," she commanded, trying hard to keep her voice steady. "I'll check the circuit box." The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly as she crept toward the utility room. Every step felt heavy, burdened by an unseen presence. The hum of silence was now deafening, amplifying her thundering heart. "Funny how you could hear your own fear." She paused at the door, pushing it open just enough to peer inside. The circuit box stood there, old and dusty, wires tangled like roots beneath the ground. She reached for the panel, but just as she did, a soft giggle echoed behind her, cold sweat trickled down her spine. She spun around, flashlight shaking in her hand, illuminating nothing but shadows. "Sam? Lily?" Nothing but the echo of her own voice answered. Just then, the laughter came again, louder and closer, rippling through the house like a wave. Jess felt her breath quicken as a cold wind swept through the hallway, snuffing out her light like a candle. Panic squeezed her chest. Her only thought to get to the kids, she bolted back, rushing towards the living room. Struggling to maintain her composure, she stumbled through the blackness. The moonlight crept in through the windows now, casting ghostly shapes across the floor. The living room was empty. "Sam! Lily!" She called, desperation hitching her voice point one by one. The windows darkened, an impenetrable fog seemed to press against the glass. The world outside vanished, leaving only the echoing laughter that wrapped around her like a vice. Before she could muster the strength to scream, she caught movement at the corner of her eye, a flash of pale skin vanishing just beyond the threshold of the porch. Was it real? Or was she losing her grip on reality? The door rattled, sending shockwaves of terror through her. Someone was outside. She rushed to the door, heart hammering, throat dry as sandpaper. Should she open it? Wouldn't that just invite them in? But they might have her children, Mom. A voice called from outside. "Sam! Stay back! Stay inside!" She shouted, firming her stance between the door and the darkness beyond. Silence followed, but it was a heavy, thick silence, the kind that held secrets. A sudden shift in the air brought a new chill, and with it, something darker loomed in her heart. What if it wasn't just the shadows? Her breathing quickened, and she backed away from the door, eyes darting around for any sign of her children. Tomorrow would reveal whatever nightmares had crept into their home tonight. But would they be alive to see it? The wind howled, the door quivered, and the flicker of something just outside sent shivers racing up her spine. Moments later, a soft knock echoed, a childish tap, innocent yet tainted by the dark. "Let us in, Mom." Her muscles locked as the fear settled deep. Who was speaking? And what had she unlocked by stepping into the forest? The darkest hour was yet to come, and it was calling her name. Jess's heart thundered in her chest as she stood frozen, the faint tapping still echoing dreadfully in her ears. She couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was on the other side of the door was not her children. Panic clawed at her throat, a suffocating grip that made it hard to breathe. "Mom!" the voice called again, a chilling whisper that seemed to slither through the cracks of the door like smoke. "Sam! Lily!" Jess barked, her voice breaking as she took a cautious step back, her eyes darting to the shadows shifting around her house. The sinister laughter still lingered in the air, a wicked reminder that whatever had taken a hold of their home was waiting, watching. Each heartbeat thundered louder, a drumbeat of impending doom. She glanced at the windows, eyes darting to the darkness pressing against the glass. The fog outside glimmered as if alive, writhing in constant, haunting motion. "Stay back!" she shouted, a futile attempt to command authority. The tap was now replaced by scratching, clawing. Something was trying to get in. The innocence of her children's voices twisted into something menacing, something that promised no safety. Then she heard it, a high-pitched giggle echoed from the other side. A giggle that held no joy, just the bitter chill of malice. Jess's stomach churned. "Let us in, Mommy. We're scared." The words slithered through the cracks again, heavy with a sinister twist that stole the warmth from her heart. Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, but the maternal urge raced to counter it. Their safety was her priority. "Go back to the playroom. I'll be there soon," she shouted, even as doubt gnawed at her. "Promise?" The voice was now softer, almost pleading. I promise," Jess managed, though unease wrapped around her like a gripping vine. She turned abruptly, her mind racing through the darkened house. Where did they go? Returning to the living room felt impossibly dangerous, and the hallway stretched longer than she'd ever known. The phone. Where was her phone? She needed to call for help, but that meant stepping further into the shadows. As she walked back, the strange giggles began again, surrounding her just beyond the door and throughout the house. Was there more than one? Her mind raced to dark thoughts. What if they weren't alone? And then she remembered. The back door. It opened to the dim outline of the forest. She had to get outside, see if she could find them. That flicker of hope pricked through her fear, pushing her legs to move faster. She rushed to the kitchen, a steep creak of the floorboards making her pause. The world shrank down to the sound of her breathing and the soft taps that followed her, as if whatever lurked was indeed right behind her. In her hurry, she yanked open the back door. It swung wide, revealing nothing but oppressive darkness. The moon barely broke through the heavy clouds. A sharp gust of wind whipped around her, chilling her bones, and she hesitated on the threshold. "Sam. Lily." She called again into the void, heart racing with fear. "Where are you?" A rustle in the bushes caught her attention, but it wasn't from the kids. No, it was something else. Something darker, risen from the depths of the shadows. And then she saw them, pale, hollow figures creeping toward her from the trees, moving in jerky motions that made her stomach churn. Her breath caught as she stumbled backward, the door slamming shut behind her. Was this really happening? "Mommy, why won't you let us in?" The high-pitched voice chimed. But this time, it wasn't just Sam and Lily. Jess felt the urge to flee. The air was growing thicker, and the figures closing in sent terror racing through her veins. Had she invited them into her home by stepping into the depths of the forest? With nowhere to run, she steeled herself against the wall, adrenaline surging. The reflections of their distorted faces stared at her, mocking her terror. She whispered a desperate prayer, waiting for the dawn that might never come. Would she fight, or would she become one of them? Jess felt the walls of her home lean in, the shadows crawling with eyes watching, waiting. Her heart raced, a frantic drum echoing in her ears. The figures outside continued to inch closer, their movements a grotesque dance of hunger and malice. Each spine-chilling giggle pierced through her like icy spears. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "It's just us," they sounded, almost pleading, but the mocking undertones were so vicious that her stomach twisted further. She could feel the overwhelming pull of the fear gripping her. "Stay away!" she screamed, attempting to shove away their sinister influence. But doubt gnawed at her heart. They were so close. Was it really her children calling, or merely twisted echoes of their innocence laced with shadows? The scratching on the back door intensified, splinters protesting against sharpened nails. An instinct to flee rose within her, but the nightmare unfolded before her, dragging her down into despair. "Mommy, we want to play." A face appeared at the window, pale and gaunt, with eyes that gleamed with something wicked. It was too familiar yet utterly wrong. Her own child's features distorted by darkness. "Open the door, please." No. Jess shook her head violently, pressing her palms against her ears. "You're not them. Go away." The figures laughed now, a chorus of distorted giggles that reverberated in her mind. She couldn't stay here. The kitchen. She remembered the knife block. Moving before her thoughts caught her, she darted toward the counter. Every step felt like a mile. The shadows seemed to stretch and crawl beneath her feet, eager to ensnare her. She snatched a large knife, gripping it tightly, the cool metal offering a brief sense of control against the chaos encroaching upon her. "Mommy, please. Just let us in." The plea turned seductive, each whisper wrapping around her throat tighter until she gasped for air. The living room seemed to pulse as if the house itself were alive and possessed, hungry for her despair. Jess turned, eyes darting from every corner, every creeping shadow. She caught a flicker of movement, a blur darting past the hallway. Had it been Lily? Jess's heart leapt. "Lily!" she cried, rushing back, but all she found were shadows stretching longer than she remembered. But then she heard it, a soft weeping, coming from the playroom. Instincts tore at her. What if it was a trap? What if it was the deep echo of despair masquerading as her daughter's voice? With each hesitant step, she felt the weight of her decision sinking into her. "Lily, is that you?" she called, a hint of desperation creeping into her voice. The weeping intensified, a gut-wrenching sound that pulled her toward it. Jess hesitated, knife raised ready, but driven by a mother's instinct, she pushed onward. As she reached the door to the playroom, her mind raced with terror and guilt. She had promised them safety. Was she strong enough to acknowledge what was true? Or would she unknowingly push them deeper into darkness? She gripped the doorknob, its coolness stinging her palm. Breathing hard, she twisted it slowly, heart pounding like an echoing thunderstorm, anticipation and dread battling for supremacy. The door creaked open, revealing the dim room beyond, littered with toys and something else. Shadows writhed in the corners, and the air pulsed heavy with an unnatural dread. "Mommy," the voice was softer now, trembling with fear as the shadows coiled tighter. "Help us." And then the shadows began to move, no longer merely watching. They surged forward, shapes amalgamating, shifting into grotesque forms resembling her children yet not. The laughter filled her ears again, a cruel taunt. "Mommy, you've ignored our call." Jess felt the icy grip of dread clutch at her heart, her breath hitching as the twisted forms closed in, and chaos unfurled. What horrors waited beyond this door? Who were these things playing as her children? She needed to make a choice. Would she let them in, or would they consume her whole? The shadows lunged with ravenous hunger, reaching towards Jess like dark tendrils grappling for their long-lost prey. She stumbled back, heart pounding wildly. Fear twisted in her stomach, cold and sharp. The knife in her grip seemed to burn against her palm, a reminder that she was still somewhat in control. "Get away from me!" she shouted, but her voice trembled with uncertainty. Could she strike at something that looked so much like her children? The twisted faces grinned wider, mocking her hesitation, and Jess found herself frozen for a heartbeat too long. The room seemed to shrink around her, primal instincts wrestling against her maternal bond. A cacophony of shrieks erupted as the forms recoiled, tangled limbs obscuring each other in motion. "Mommy, don't you want to play?" they teased, their voices rippling like water through her sanity. The pleading transformed to something darker, sinister. It clawed at her resolve. Jess shook her head, forcing herself to breathe. "Lily! Is that really you?" she cried, desperation lacing her words. This time, she sensed a flicker of recognition within the shadows. It was fleeting but there. A gentle pull back from the abyss of malice. "Mommy, I'm scared." It pierced through the din. The voice sounded so much like her daughter's, small, trembling, truly lost, but the others were relentless. "Open your heart, Mommy. Let us back in." Their cries were like shards of glass, cutting deeper into the space between love and terror. Jess's mind raced. Each heartbeat was a countdown. The shimmering shapes lunged again, forcing her to decide whether to embrace the warmth of her child's essence or to fight against the dark. Without realizing it, she stepped into the room, narrowing the space to confront the clawing shadows. She might have just invited her doom. The knife felt heavy as she lifted it, balancing it awkwardly before her. "Stay back." The air was thick, cut with anticipation. Jess felt a tickle on her skin, the creeping chill of darkness beckoning just beyond her reach. The shadows paused, eyes like coals glimmering in the dim light, watching her with a keen hunger. "Mommy, please!" One shrieked, and another chimed in, "We just want to play forever." Their voices began to harmonize, a twisted lullaby that threatened to lull her into submission. She shook her head violently, struggling against the siren call. "No! You're not them." As if provoked by her denial, the shadows surged, their laughter morphing into a deafening rattle that rattled the very walls of her home. Despair clawed at her throat. What would it take to defend her heart? Then, from the corner of the playroom, a flicker of light. Something shifted beneath a pile of toys, a bright glimmer, maybe a reflection. With instinct and uncertainty urging her forward, she lunged towards it, knife raised, breath caught. It was a glimpse of her daughter's favorite stuffed bear, dirty and torn, but undeniably hers. "Lily!" she shouted, grasping it with trembling fingers. But in the same instant, a shadow launched at her, claws raked the air, skimming her cheek. She staggered back, blood warm and dripping. "Mommy!" A scream erupted from the darkness. The voice seemed to crack and splinter, twisting into a horrible imitation of her daughter's panic. She stood frozen, vision burned into her memory, the grotesque forms darting closer, craving her anguish. This wasn't just about ghosts, it was a contract with despair, a pact to drown in the depths of loss. The choice throbbed in her mind. Attack, defend, or succumb. Just then, the glimmer turned into a flicker of hope, a doorway into another room. Could it lead her away from this nightmare, or would it pull her further into the darkness? With heart racing, she had to decide. Could she leave her children behind? Would fleeing bring them more harm than good? As the shadows closed in, she took a step back, uncertain. The door loomed black and inviting, but also deadly as they cackled in glee. What would she sacrifice to find her way back to them? Would running lead her to freedom or deeper terror? The choice was before her, and time was slipping away. The moment hung like a taut string ready to snap. Jess's heart thundered, a frantic call to action within a storm of dread. The shadows pulsed, their twisted forms undulating with a sinister hunger, inching closer, filling the room with a palpable malevolence. Breath hitching, Jess clutched the stuffed bear to her chest, a quick rush of warmth washing over her. It felt like a lifeline, a tether to the flickering memory of giggles and warmth. But the shadows took no notice of her vulnerabilities. They were relentless in their pursuit. With a scream of defiance, she darted toward the doorway, her only path to salvation. Each step sent the knife's handle biting into her palm, the cold blade a reminder of both danger and defense. She could feel the shadows drawing near, their foul breath whispering her name, a twisted lullaby sung by souls consumed by darkness. "Mommy, don't leave us!" One wailed, its voice ringing sharp in her ears, echoing with her daughter's innocent pitch. Each word felt like a serrated knife, scraping against her heart. "No! You're not her!" Jess screamed back, resisting the urge to turn and see their contorted faces, disgust clawing at her throat. She could feel their claws grazing her mind, trying to break through her defenses. Almost there. The door hung before her like a portal to another realm, a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. But doubt seeped in. If she fled, what would become of Lily? Would she become another echo in the darkness? Then a powerful roar erupted behind her, shattering the silence as the darkness surged. It slammed against her back like a wave, sending Jess sprawling against the wall. Her grip on the bear loosened, and panic clawed at her gut. "Mommy!" The voice seemed to resonate in the air like a scream from the depths of despair. In that moment, she felt the despair wash over her, cold fingers entwining around her heart, squeezing. She broke from that grip, scrambling to her feet, adrenaline surging. The doorway teetered at the edge of existence, a sliver of freedom barely visible. Jess's hands trembled with resolve, and she quickly thrust the knife into the shadows nearest to her. The blade bit flesh, and the creature shrieked. Its howl twisted her blood, resonating deep in her bones as she felt an unexpected jolt of rage. No more hesitation. No more fear. They didn't just want to play, they wanted to devour her soul, but shadows only recoiled momentarily before surging back, their eyes glinting like molten silver, hungering for her to falter. In a desperate rush, she tore towards the doorway, but found it slipping away, receding into a wall of black. No! She screamed, lunging at it. The jagged edges of reality blurred as she thrust through, feeling invisible fingers scraping against her skin. The world shifted dark to light, cold to warm. In that liminal space, shadows howled, their discontent filling her ears with sickening glee. She crashed through, pain vibrating in her bones as she landed. She blinked rapidly. Her surroundings had changed drastically. She was now in a dimly lit hallway, lined with doors, each one a mirage of her nightmares. The shadows shifted outside the frame, watching, waiting, pulsating with anticipation, fingers trembling and mind racing. Jess grasped the bear tightly. Questions flooded her mind. Where was she now? Were the shadows following her? What lay behind each door? Suddenly, one door creaked open, revealing a small glimmer of light seeping through, casting shapes that danced over the walls. "Mommy?" A familiar voice whispered from within, hauntingly sweet and enticing. Her heart pounded again, strong and deep. Was it truly Lily? Or was it another trap, another trick of the malevolent shadows waiting to strike? As shadows whispered dangerously close behind her, Jess held her breath. Would she dare to step into that light? Or would she walk deeper into the darkness that craved her soul? Choices loomed large in the encroaching dark. And time continued to slip away. Jess stood frozen, the door's creaking hinge slicing through the suffocating silence. The glimmering light beckoned her like a siren's call, whispering promises of safety, warmth, and her daughter. But the shadows writhed fiercely at her back, their cold tendrils snaking closer, eager to drag her down into the abyss. "Mommy, please." The voice echoed again, tinged with desperation that shattered her resolve. It sounded so much like Lily, yet there was an edge, a sinister undertone that set her nerves ablaze. Jess's heart raced, a wild drum against the oppressive silence. Was it really her girl, or a ghostly echo fashioned by the vile shadows? Her grip tightened around the plush bear, feeling the coarse stitching against her clammy palms. If she stepped through, she might find Lily, but if it was a trick, what would await her? Suddenly, darkness flared. A guttural growl erupted from behind her. A shadow lunged forward. Instinctively, Jess turned, slashing with the knife. The blade connected, and again the creature howled, but it didn't relent. It surged forward as if pain never touched it at all. "Run!" A voice shouted from the light, grounding her shaking limbs. It pierced through her mind like a bolt of lightning. Realization ignited within her, she had to flee. In a frenzied burst of energy, fueled by fear and a mother's love, Jess hurled herself into the doorway. As she crossed the threshold, cold air enveloped her, seeping into her bones. The world spun a kaleidoscope of reality, yet she felt a flicker of hope twist inside her. The shadows lunged, their wrath surging beyond the threshold, but a barrier shimmered, locking them out with a vicious growl. She found herself in a room painted a soft, innocent blue, almost familial, but something was off. A low hum pulsed through the air, nearly melodic, that made her feel both at ease and profoundly unsettled. A child's laughter echoed, ringing from the corners of the space, pulling her towards the source. "Mommy!" The voice sang out, vibrant and alive. Jess blinked, scanning the area, her heart racing. It felt too safe, too perfect. The room was filled with worn toys and a small rocking chair, but no Lily. The fear began to claw again at her throat. As she stepped further in, the laughter faltered, morphing into giggles that bubbled and burst out, echoing, yet somehow far away. Each step felt heavier, the air thickening with an unspeakable dread. She glanced back toward the door still closed, still shimmering with a promise of safety, but the shadows were gathering at the edges, restless. "Where are you, Lily?" Jess called out, her voice trembling. "Here." Another voice rang in her ears, familiar yet grotesque, like fingers dragging along a slate. A flicker of movement caught her eye. A shape darted in the corner. It was small, childlike, but there was something wrong, something deeply unsettling. Steeling herself, she approached slowly, dread flooding her senses, wondering if this was simply a ruse. Then, from behind a pile of toys, emerged a child barefoot, filthy, with wild eyes that glinted dangerously. "Mommy," it whispered again, the innocence twisted as the shadow behind it loomed larger, writhing like living smoke. Jess's breath caught. The child moved closer, revealing its features more clearly. Twist and turn, its face seemed to shift between a likeness of Lily and a monster drawn from her darkest fears. Suddenly, the room shuddered, the floor vibrating beneath her feet as if the very fabric of reality threatened to tear. In that instant, Jess's resolve surged. The door. There was still time to escape. But as she turned to run, a new sound filled the air, a chorus of low, disturbing laughter, echoing all around her, closing in with every passing heartbeat. Shadows from every corner converged, pooling closer, their eager whispers weaving a tapestry of despair and darkness. With dread clawing at her throat, Jess faced the door, her heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. Could she outrun the darkness? Or would she find herself forever ensnared in this hellish trap? The weight of her choice gripped her just as shadows surged, and she surged toward the doorway, desperate to break free. Would the light hold, or would she be swallowed whole into the night? The moment her fingers grazed the shimmering threshold, a deafening screech invaded her ears, as if the walls themselves were warning her to stay. Panic surged through Jess. The laughter sounded too joyful, too enticing, and it wrapped around her heart like a vice. She faltered, the soft glow pulsing before her like a heartbeat, but behind her, the monstrous shadows writhed, hissing like snakes, ready to consume her whole. With a final scream of defiance, Jess lunged back toward the door, but it quivered as if it had gained a life of its own. The shadows twisted, clawing at her ankles, pulling her down. She felt the cold grip of fear as their presence thickened, a suffocating blanket of dread closing in. "Mommy! Don't go!" The child's voice was like glass breaking. It echoed through the room, each syllable slicing into her resolve. Where was Lily? What had she left behind, and what lay ahead? Jess spun around, eyes wide, searching for the grotesque figure that had called to her. The room seemed to pulse with an otherworldly rhythm, toys strewn about in chaotic disarray whispering secrets of past desolation. Every stuffed animal bore witness to her dread. Just the voice morphed again, low and gravelly, teasing the edges of her sanity. "Join us, it's better here." The shadow flickered, morphing into a darker shape, eyes gleaming with malicious intent. Her instincts blared alarms, but the sweet memories of a child's laughter wrapped around her, promising safety and warmth. For a moment, Jess hesitated, her heart battling between the search for her daughter and the suffocating fear unfolding around her. The laughter erupted again, distorting the air. Shadows snaked closer, pouring out from the corners like spilled ink, eager to tug her back into the abyss. She could almost hear them, countless voices whispering secrets long buried. Would they show her where Lily lay? Or would they drown her in despair? Gathering her courage, Jess snapped out of her daze. No. She couldn't let the darkness ensnare her, she had to fight. Each breath was labored as she focused backward, eyes locked on the door. The laughter turned sinister, shrill giggles echoing like banshees, piercing her soul. The small child in front of her stood frozen, expression shifting again, a mask of malevolence. "Mommy, stay." The word slithered through the air, tauntingly sweet, breaking her heart. Jess lunged for the door, adrenaline surging, but something cold snatched her wrist. It felt like a vice, chilling, unforgiving. She twisted, desperate, but the shadows yanked her deeper, dragging her down. "No!" she screamed, fighting against the pull. Her knife glinted dully in the strange light, a reminder of her resolve. She swung wildly, feeling it connect with something soft yet unyielding. A howl erupted like thunder, piercing through the chaotic laughter, the shadows recoiling momentarily. In that fleeting second, clarity struck. The door. She had to reach it. With every ounce of strength left, Jess bolted, pushing against the frigid grasp of the shadows. The pressure released slightly, and for an instant, she felt the sweet taste of freedom. But then, the air shifted again, darkening painfully. From her peripheral vision, she spotted something, a flicker of movement that made dread coil tighter within her. The child had vanished, leaving nothing but a lingering chill. Just as Jess grabbed the edge of the door, the shadows surged again, louder, angry. "You don't belong here," they hissed collectively, a guttural symphony of chaos. With one final push, Jess flung herself through the doorway, crashing back into reality. But everything had changed. She stood in a narrow hallway, the air thick with mildew and despair. The walls were splattered with dark stains, and flickering lights cast unholy shadows that danced around her. Had she escaped? Or was this just the beginning of a new nightmare? A cold wind swept through, rattling the scattered debris and sending chills down her spine. And as she turned to survey her surroundings, she heard a soft whisper, following her closer, wrapping around her like a shroud. "Mommy?" It was unmistakably Lily's voice, sweet yet tainted by an echo of something more sinister. Where was she? And what awaited Jess in this new, unknown place? Jess blinked against the disorienting darkness, her breath hitching as the flickering lights cast fractured shadows over the decaying walls. Each creak of the floorboards echoed like thunder, the whispers of her children toying with her heart as she stood teetering on the brink of fear and hope. Was she still in the grip of those wretched shadows? She couldn't shake the eerie feeling, creeping in, like cold fingers skimming over her skin. "Mommy," the voice called again, an unbearable blend of sweetness and sorrow, causing her heart to race. She turned, searching. "Lily? Is that you?" Every muscle in her body felt heavy with dread, yet that flicker of familiarity sent her racing down the hallway. "Mommy, I'm scared, help me." The voice pulled her, opening a chamber of longing within her heart, but she hesitated. Was this truly her daughter? Or merely shadows manipulating her memories, taunting her with the promise of comfort while hiding a deeper horror? The walls seemed to shudder, a haunting reminder of the battles she had fought only moments before. Each step felt like moving through treacle, the oppressive air thickening with every heartbeat. "Jess!" The wind howled. "Get out while you still can." It felt like a warning wrapped in desperation, and oddly familiar. Had the voice once been a part of her life, or was it just another whisper of the darkness? She pushed it aside, focusing on that childlike voice echoing through the shadows. "Lily? I'm coming!" She cried out, determination surging within her. The path twisted and turned, leading her deeper into this labyrinth of despair. The flickering lights cast deceptive patterns, revealing shapes that slid away if she stared at them too long. Jess pressed on, adrenaline coursing. The sweet sound of laughter echoed from a nearby room, full of an innocent joy that felt strangely warped. "Mommy! In here! Just hold on!" she urged, catching sight of a door slightly ajar, the brightness spilling out like a beacon. The closer she got, the more it felt like a live heartbeat, alive and pulsing. She grasped the handle and threw the door open, a wave of warmth spilling over her as she leaped through. Inside, the space was adorned with bright colors, toys meticulously arranged, a child's paradise. But where was Lily? The illumination brightened the shadows lurking at the edges, and she pressed forward, heart racing. Jess scanned the room, searching for a sign. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught her eye. "Mommy!" The small figure emerged from behind a plush mountain of toys. It was Lily. Jess's heart soared, but as she rushed forward, Lily's expression shifted, a pang of unease threading through the joy. Lily! Jess embraced her tightly, feeling the warmth of her child seep through her. Thank God, I found you. She pulled back, studying her daughter's face. A glimmer of the oversized, unsettling grin lingered at the corner of Lily's mouth. Mommy, the sweet voice contorted, twisting into something darker. Where were you? We've been playing for so long. The shadows danced around the room, thickening and swirling over the toys, tugging at Jess's sanity. No. You're not her. Jess screamed, the edge of her voice slicing through the Wonderland facade. You're not my daughter. The shadows flooded the room, the laughter morphing into a monstrous cacophony, twisting her memories of warmth and love into a snarl of madness. Come and play with us, Mommy. Forever. The naive sweetness of Lily's voice became a knife twisting deep, reminding her of the darkness threatening to consume everything she loved. Desperation surged through Jess. I want to play. I want to let you take her. In one swift movement, she drew the knife, a glimmer of metal illuminating her steadfast resolve. Time seemed to stop, the shadows freezing, their laughter becoming mockery, anticipating her yield. But this time she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for her daughter. Stay back. She roared, stepping between the shadows and the little girl she loved. Armed with determination, Jess lunged forward, thrusting herself straight into the darkness that loomed over her, striking at the tendrils twisting around Lily, threatening to drag her down. The energy shifted, the walls pulsed ominously, shadows recoiling from her blade with howls of anguish, their true forms revealing a twisted amalgamation of lost souls. They clawed at the edges of Jess's consciousness, trying to pull her into their grasp. Mommy! Help me! The child's voice twisted again, the innocence faltering, revealing a truth she was torn between loving and protecting. With smashing resolve, Jess held Lily close. I'm not leaving you. We'll get out of here. Shadows swarmed around them, trying to engulf their light. They would not be easily vanquished, but Jess had something they didn't love, fierce and unyielding, illuminating like the brightest sun. Follow me. She shouted, gripping Lily's hand. Together they dashed toward the door. The shadows reached out, close enough to feel the chill against her skin, but Jess pushed through, heart pounding. With one last desperate surge, she flung open the door. Light exploded over them, the warmth washing away the lingering cold. As they stepped through, the darkness shrieked in fury, desperate to hold on to its victims. But they burst free into daylight, into the world she desperately longed for, safe. Alive. Here, breathless and shaking, Jess dropped to her knees, pulling Lily close as the shadows faded, shrieking into nothingness. The weight of despair lessened as they stood intertwined, a warm shelter blossomed around them. In that moment, Jess felt a spark, a flicker of hope returning. Are you okay, sweetheart? She murmured, brushing the hair from Lily's forehead, fear giving way to a mother's fierce protectiveness. Yeah, Mommy, Lily's voice reassured her, strong and sweet. I'm okay. With a pull of deep-seated gratitude clinching her heart, Jess glanced back toward the forest, thick with shadows but now at peace. She understood then, though the dark always lurked, she would embrace the sunlight, carry her light fiercely against the night. They had escaped, together. As they walked away from the haunted shadows of Appalachia, each step felt lighter, filled with the promise of a new beginning, side by side. Jess squeezed Lily's hand, forging a path into the future where love always drove away the dark and where true home remained forever close. Don't wait even one more second. If you love this conclusion and want more exclusive stories, you need to subscribe now. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and ensure everyone gets a taste of these captivating tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending, we want to hear from you. And don't forget, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support.